My name is Mars. You can call me Mayor MG if you would like. And today is the 17th of July. It's about 7 p.m. That's a lot of sevens. Anyways, I am starting this vlog here. This is the vlog of me doing my quarterly member readathon, so I'll try not to drag on with this, but for some context, I have memberships over on Ko-fi, linked down in the description if you want to check it out, and one of the tiers is called the Martian Council, and one of the perks of that tier is that every quarter we have a little mini readathon based on my TBR game. And we didn't actually do one last quarter, so this one that we're doing now for Q3 is a little bit longer than like normal length. It will be 2 weeks, starting tomorrow, running until the end of the month, and so my TBR game is this deck of cards. There's 103 cards, each one has a prompt. You pull a card and you get that prompt and pick a book to fit the prompt. Pretty self-explanatory, so there's a point system and everything. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but basically technically starting tomorrow, but starting right now, the format of this is going to be pulling a card, getting a prompt, reading a book, repeat. I'm actually not using the actual cards for this. I will be using a spinner wheel that I made that has all of the cards as options so that everything is nice and even across the board, because my members, of which there's technically only one right now, shout out Laura, I just did that so that everyone can participate and not have to buy the deck of cards. And so I'm also going to use the spinner wheel just so that we're all on even footing. Again, all meaning 2 of us. It's fine. Maybe one day I'll have more members. If any of this sounds interesting and you want to become a member, again, check out the link in the description. But yes, I will not start reading until tomorrow, but I do want to get my first prompt and pick out my book so that I can just hit the ground running. So I am going to record myself spinning the wheel, and it's going to look terrible because I don't have any like screen capture technology. I'm not technologically savvy, so it'll just be me holding my phone to film it and then seeing what comes up and finding the prompt, and then I'll come back with whatever book I decide to read for that. So we'll just cut to that right now. Okay, here we are. We're gonna hit spin. Oh, I forgot that I muted that. Whoops, you don't get the fun spinner sounds. But we're gonna see what I get, and it is the designer. So then we go over here to my prompt list, and gotta go all the way to the bottom. The designer is a comp title for one of my projects. Ooh, okay. I'll be back with whatever I pick for that. Alright, I'm back. That was actually a lot quicker than I thought it would be to find a book. So at first I was thinking maybe something that would be a comp title for Love City, the serial fiction that I'm currently working on, but the best like comp titles that I have for that are things that I've already read, and so I'm like, okay, well, Revelry, my novel that I'm publishing in a month and a half, which is terrifying to say, but surprise, I'm publishing a novel in a month and a half. It's not really a surprise. I've been talking about it, not officially, but like here and there for a while. Anyway, it is a dark academia novel, so I was going through Scribd and all the dark academia stuff that I've saved, and I have quite a few dark academia novels that I've wanted to check out for a while, and the one that I have settled on for my first read of this readathon is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. It's one that I've been wanting to read for a while, and so I cannot wait to break into this, and I'm just so excited. It's got some very heavy topics, but then so does my novel, and I can't wait. I'm very much looking forward to cracking into this tomorrow morning, so I will see you then. Good morning, friends. It is about 8 a.m. on the 18th, and I am ready to start reading. So I was looking at the ebook for My Dark Vanessa, which is how we'll be reading it, and it's about 460 pages. Oh, hello, Chloe. She just came running in here. Yes, it's about 460 pages, so it's not super long, but I definitely don't think I'll be able to read it in like one day. Maybe 2. I'm not sure how much time I'll actually have to dedicate to reading. These 2 weeks I will be trying to read more than usual, and I already read a lot, but Yeah, I might take a couple days. Oh, I don't know. Yep, there's her tail. Love that. So yeah, I will keep you guys updated as I keep reading these books, but I truly don't know how many I will be able to get through. With my luck, I'll end up pulling like The Four of Giants, which is a book over 600 pages, and like all the prompts that make me read intimidating books, which of course are going to take me longer to read, but we shall see. For now, I have My Dark Vanessa waiting for me, and I'm very excited to read it, so I'm going to get just started on that. I am back, and I have a cat in my lap. Little gremlin, are you just going to face me? You're going to turn around and say hello. Anyway, I've read the first chapter of My Dark Vanessa, and now Chloe's approaching again. I was going to read the first two before I updated you guys because there's two timelines. There's a timeline that takes place in 2000 and one that takes place in 2017, and I was going to read one chapter from each timeline. And the first chapter is from 2017, and then the next one goes back to 2000. And that chapter is 97 pages long, and I just don't have that in me right now. I'm the kind of person who can't really stop in the middle of a chapter, but I can't read a 97-page chapter at the moment. My brain just will not cooperate. So I'm just gonna take a break after the first chapter and do something else. I've got a lot to do today, but I did like the first chapter. I really like the voice that the author has created for the main character, Vanessa. I don't know why I was so surprised that the main character was named Vanessa. The book is literally called My Dark Vanessa, but I thought it was like a reference to something or like a nickname. I don't know. It never occurred to me that that would be the main character's name. Anyway, yeah, I am enjoying it so far. I think it's very interesting and it definitely has me intrigued. I just don't have the brain power at 8 whatever in the morning to read a 97-page chapter. So, I will get back to it later and then update you when I have an update. Hello, friends. It is almost 4 p.m. now, and I'm about a quarter of the way into My Dark Vanessa, and I don't know how many chapters I've read because there's no chapter numbers. It just tells you which timeline you're in at the top of each chapter. So it's been 4 or 5, maybe. I really haven't been keeping track. Anyway, I am enjoying this book, but it feels weird to say that. I'm not enjoying it in the way like I like what the characters are going through kind of thing that you say with most books. Because obviously, I don't enjoy what these characters are going through because this is a very dark book, very heavy topics, and it's hard to get through, but it's enjoyment as catharsis. You know, you read about characters going through terrible things and it makes you feel better about your own life, sort of thing. It's like that. And the book is extremely well written. Like, the writing style is fantastic. I feel so drawn into it when I do pick it up. I don't like how long the chapters are, but that's just personal preference. I'm really not a long chapter kind of person. But it still feels like they're shorter than they actually are because of how sucked into the story I've been getting. I still notice how long they are, but they go by faster than I would expect them to with their length. But yeah, quarter of the way through, it's going way faster than I thought it would because, like I said, this is almost a 500-page book. But I've been switching back and forth between reading and some of my other tasks for the day, so I feel like every time I go back to the book, I'm ready to get another good chunk read. I'm not the kind of person who can just sit and read straight on for hours at a time. I definitely need to break it up, and it's been going well for me today. I'm probably gonna read more, but I'm not sure how much more. Hello, friends. You get this awesome angle of me because I'm already laying in bed and I don't feel like setting up a better filming setup because this is just gonna be a quick update. I have read about 300 pages of My Dark Vanessa today, and it's just flying by even though the chapters are still so long. I mean, I kind of expected that. I feel like I'm the only person who's very bad at consistent chapter lengths. I feel like the first half of my books always have really short chapters, and then the second half always has really long chapters. I don't know. It's an issue that I've noticed. That's neither here nor there. I'm still enjoying My Dark Vanessa the same way that I was before, and I cannot wait to keep reading it. I'm almost definitely going to finish it tomorrow. So, when I do, that means I get to pick another card, and I'm very excited for that because I just can't wait to see what comes up. Laura has been updating me on her reads in the Discord, so she's chugging along too. She's on her second book right now, so she is ahead of me, but we'll get there. It's literally still the first day of the readathon today. But yes, it is very late. I'm going to go to bed, and I will see you tomorrow. Good afternoon, friends. It is about 2 p.m. on the 19th, and I've just finished My Dark Vanessa. I read so much more of it yesterday than I thought I was that I kind of just sped through what was left today, and I'm ready to move on. I did like this book a lot. I thought it was so well crafted, and it was heartbreaking and beautiful in all the best ways. And it kind of reminded me of History of Wolves by, ooh, who wrote that? Emily something, I think? That sounds correct. It's like a white cover with birch trees. I read that, I want to say last December. It might have been the year before, but I think it was this most recent December. It reminds me of that, which is weird because I originally read History of Wolves thinking that it could be a comp title for Revelry, and I ended up completely disregarding that. I read the whole thing, I didn't DNF it or anything. I just didn't love it and also didn't really think it connected to my story in any way. My Dark Vanessa, I do think I could use as a comp title. Maybe not a comp title in itself, but be like, if you enjoyed this book, you might enjoy mine kind of thing. But yeah, I finished it, and that means I get to move on to my second read of the readathon. Okay, sorry if my hands are shaky, but we're here. We're gonna spin the wheel, and it is gonna give us something eventually. Oh, okay, so the Bard is either the first book in a series or an author that I've never read from before. So I really don't know what I'm gonna pick. I'll figure something out and be right back. Alright, that took me a hot minute to find a book, but I'll be reading The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Readathon. This is the last book that I need to read from my monthly TBR, so it's good that I'm getting it on there. And technically this is the first book in a series, but I've literally never heard anyone talk about the other books, so I didn't know it was the first book in a series until I just looked on Goodreads. So I am counting this as an author I've never read from before, even though it could technically fit either prompt. That's just in case I get the Bard again, then I will have to do it as first book in a series because I'm using this as author I've never read from before. But yeah, this is a thick boy. It is almost 500 pages. It's slightly longer than My Dark Vanessa, and I think it's gonna be dense, so I'm a little bit worried. Oh, that's a teeny tiny font. I'm gonna see if there's an audiobook on Scribd so I could listen while I read along. But yeah, I feel like this is gonna take me a lot longer than My Dark Vanessa did, but that's where I'm at right now. I will see you once I crack into this book. Hello friends, it is just after 1 o'clock on the 20th, and I'm about 50 pages into The Shadow of the Wind, and I'm conflicted about it because I'm enjoying parts of it, but not all of it. So our main character, Daniel, is the son of a secondhand bookseller, and one day when he's 10, his dad takes him to what's known as, what is it called again? The Cemetery of Forgotten Books, and it's this like underground cathedral type looking place full of books that have just been lost to time and they only exist there. And his dad is like, you have to pick out one book to be yours and adopt this book. And so he picks up this book that he sees called The Shadow of the Wind, and he tries to do research into this author, and the author has like published before, but all of his copies, the copies of his books didn't sell well, and they were all destroyed or whatever. And one of his dad's friends, like a fellow bookseller, he's like, yeah, I know a little bit about this author. My niece is actually the expert though, so he introduces Daniel to his niece, and Clara, she's blind, and it like it's not like a bad way to treat a blind character. Like the way the narrative talks about her, it just feels a little bit othering. It's kind of weird, but it's nothing like outright terrible. But the relationship between Daniel and Clara is a little bit weird because whenever it mentions his age, he's always like, I'm almost 11, so he's 10. And when they meet, she's like, oh yeah, I'm almost twice your age, so she's about 20. And the way he like acts towards her, she's like part a proxy for his dead mother, but also his like first romantic crush, and it's just really weird. And I don't like the way that she acts back towards him. She's not like flirting with him or anything, but like it's just a little bit odd and uncomfortable. But yeah, he gets older though. I think the part where I'm at now, he's like 14, so he's like still meeting up with Clara all the time to talk about this author and this book, and they read a whole bunch of books together. There's this man in a leather mask who's like following Clara around whenever she goes out on her own, and she knows he wears a leather mask because she felt it once, and that's interesting. Not a ton has happened though, and I feel like I've read so much because, like I said, the font is very tiny, and I've read 50 pages, but it feels like so much more, and it's very dense. The writing style is a little bit too elaborate for my tastes. Like, I love flowery writing, but this is just over the top, and I don't know, it's very dense. But another thing is that my copy, pretty gross. I got it in a secondhand, no, Little Free Library, that's what they're called. And like some of the pages are stuck together. I was trying to like break them apart, but I don't want to like damage it. Like, I don't know if you can hear the crinkling of them separating. It's really gross. So I don't know how far I'm gonna get into this without being too grossed out to continue. I'm definitely not keeping this copy, even if I end up loving the book. But like, there's a chance that I'm gonna DNF it just because I don't like physically touching it a lot. It's like fine when it's just normal pages, but every now and then I get to a page that's like really gross, and I'm like, ooh. There's also like smudged ink and stuff on a couple of pages, so it's like really beat up. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. This is going to take me a while to get through, so I don't know how often I will update you guys, but definitely whenever anything major happens. Hello, friends. I'm sorry for the kind of weird lighting. It is about 4 p.m. on the 21st, so the sun is coming directly through this window. But I have to update you that I am DNFing The Shadow of the Wind. So I got a little over 100 pages in, and just the way they talk about certain things I don't like. So, like I mentioned, the main character Daniel, he works with his dad for this secondhand bookshop that they run, and they hired this guy to work with them, and he's like a former spy or something. I don't know, but like they're all friends now, I guess. But this guy is talking about how he doesn't want to be the one to take in this shipment of books that they're getting from this professor because he doesn't like this professor and his like misconduct that he's always doing. And this guy says, that's money stained with the blood of innocent virgins. For the love of God, I hereby swear that I've never lain with an underage woman, and not for lack of inclination or opportunities. I don't like that. Then he goes on to talk about how he was like always a really handsome guy when he was younger and always had women throwing themselves at him, even like as young as teenagers. I don't want any part of that. And like some of the ways they talk about other characters, there was one part where Daniel walks in on two characters having sex, and just the descriptions of the female body versus the male body, just not here for it. So I am done with this. I don't know what that means in terms of this readathon, so my idea was that it would not get me the points for completing the prompt. That's just what makes sense because I didn't complete the prompt, I didn't complete the book. But I do get points for the pages that I read because that's the two ways to score points is by completing prompts, and then every 100 pages you read, you get a point. So I messaged Laura and I'm waiting to hear back from her about what she thinks of that idea, but like I'm not completing this book. So I'm going to pull another card and pick another book, and hopefully it's better. Hopefully it's a short one. I feel like I've been picking long, dense books. Like I'm only on my second one. I think Laura's on her like fourth or fifth book already. We'll see. Hopefully this third book is a nice easy one for me, a nice palate cleanser. So once again, we are here at the wheel, and we're gonna press spin. And I still have it muted for some reason, I don't know why, but let's see what we get. It is the Four of Undead, which means a book you've held on to for too long. Okay, cool. We'll see what I come up with for that. I have just really not been lucking out with these rolls, these card pulls, these prompts. None of it. None of it's been working in my favor. I have right now the second oldest book on my TBR, meaning the book that's been on my shelves unread for the second longest period of time. The book that has been on my shelf longer than this one is Inferno by Dan Brown. I've had that book since spring of 2016, and I'm just not ready for it. That thing is thick, it's probably dense, it's a mass market paperback, so you know the font is going to be small. I'm not putting myself through that. What I'm putting myself through is The Italian Lakes by Aubrey Feist. This is a nonfiction book about the Italian lakes that a friend got for me in the spring of 2017 when we were both studying abroad in London at the same time. They went off to do something one weekend, found a secondhand bookshop or something, found this really old book. It's got orange pages, but only on the top, like the bottom and the side are normal. And this is from 1975, and it's just information about different lakes in Italy. It's got some pictures. You know, I never thought I'd ever actually read this. I thought this would just sit on my shelf as a cool book to own, just a nice old book. But it's been on my shelf for way too long, so I guess I'm reading it. It is short. It is less than 200 pages, so hopefully I will get through this quickly and get a better pick next. Boy, what have I gotten myself into with this readathon? Good morning, friends. It is just past 10 a.m. on the 22nd, and I finished The Italian Lakes. It was fine. It was what it was. It like opens up with being like this whole big paragraph about this isn't a guidebook, this isn't a history book, none of that. And I'm like, okay, so then what is it? And as I was reading, it became clear it's just the author's stories about their time in Italy. And I'm like, I guess. It was fine. It was very dry. I did have to remind myself that this is almost 50 years old at this point because it came out in 75. So it's very outdated, and the language shows that. The way he talks about like the Italian people that he like came into contact with in Italy was a little bit weird at times, but ultimately it was a book that I read, and that's all I can say. So now we can move on, get another prompt, and hopefully a better book than what I've been going through. I should clarify, I did really enjoy my Dark Vanessa. It was just a very heavy, dense book. And then we had a DNF. And then we had The Italian Lakes, which is just whatever. So hopefully we have a book that I will have a fun time reading. That's all I want. So let's go to that wheel. All right, and here's our wheel. I'm gonna spin it and see what we get. We have the Druid. The prompts for Druid are politics as a main theme or a translated book. Okay, I'm feeling like politics not something I want to get into right now, even like political fantasy and stuff. So we'll find something translated, I guess. I will be back eventually with what my next book is. Okay, that was actually only a couple of minutes because I remembered that A Winter's Promise is translated. It was originally in French, I believe, And so I'm gonna read this. And this is a thick book. It is just shy of 500 pages. It's like 490. So a little bit chunky, but it will be a reread. I read this 2 years ago, maybe? I don't think it was 3. That seems like a little bit too long ago. But yes, I read this, never continued on with the series, but I did really enjoy it and would like to read the rest of the books. They are on Scribd in ebook now. For the longest time, they were only audiobook, but I saw like last week they updated it and now they have the ebooks on there. So maybe I will get to finally continue on. It would be great if I could own them, but I am on a little bit of a book buying ban until I have more disposable income. So Scribd is a great way for me to read more books that aren't ones that I own already. Anyway, that is way besides the point. This is a high fantasy. The main character, Ophelia, is like married off to this guy, and there's like a whole bunch of different types of magic, and Ophelia has 2 things that she can do. She can travel through mirrors, and she can also see the history of objects when she touches them, and those are just 2 really cool things. And I remember really liking this, like, world building, so yeah, I'll be rereading this. Look at that shiny font on that cover. That's so cool. One thing that irks me about this book is if you look at the spine, it's like backwards, so you turn it this way to make the words face upright, whereas most books you would turn the other way. That's besides the point. It's just a weird thing that I don't like. I know that most European published books are like that way instead of that way, so they probably just kept it like that when they translated it. I don't know. I'm just rambling, but yeah, I'm very excited to pick this up. Hello, friends. I genuinely don't know when the last time I updated you was. It's been a minute. It is just past 1 p.m. on the 25th, and I am now halfway through A Winter's Promise. I don't know why I'm pausing so much in the middle of my sentences. Yeah, it's taking me longer to get through this than I thought it would, but it's fine. It's only the 25th. We've still got several days, plenty of time for me to get more points, but, yeah, I'm enjoying this more than I did the first time, I think. I'm, like, picking up on more, because it's very much a throw you into the world kind of thing, and you gotta figure it out when you go along. It's not like those series that kind of lead you along and carefully explain the world building to you. You're just in it, and that's fine. I like that kind of story. I don't mind, but it's hard to get into, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm like wowed by because I'm like, oh, I don't remember that from last time. It could also just be that I did notice it the first time I read it and I've just forgotten, but regardless, I'm having a good time. So there's 2 parts to this book, and I read the first one, and now we have a shift. The characters are going to a new place, and there's new challenges for them, and I'm excited because I really don't remember anything that happens in the second half of this book. I didn't remember a ton anyway. It was more just like vibes and characters that I remembered when I was going into this. But like even the few moments that I did remember, they all happened in the first half of this book. So I genuinely don't know what's gonna happen. And I can't wait to keep reading. Hello, friends. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I just was doing some reading before going to bed, and I got to a part that as I was reading it, I remembered, oh shit, yeah, this happens, and it made me insane the first time I read it. Feeling the same way now. So it's Ophelia and Thorn, the 2 main characters are like talking and revealing secrets and things like that, and then the chapter ends with she stood still in the cold darkness, lost inside her coat, her stomach so knotted she felt nauseous. From Thorn she'd been ready for anything. Brutality, disdain, indifference. He didn't have the right to fall in love with her. And, oh, that line. So, like, before, like, in, like, the last couple pages, it repeats the line, he didn't have the right, like, every couple paragraphs, and then you get, like, the full sentence at the end. So good. Masterful writing. I eat that shit up. This book is so good. And now I only have this much left. I might be able to finish it tomorrow, maybe, if I have plenty of time. I should. I'm streaming with Anne and Stieg in the morning, and I finished my book edits today, so I don't have anything major to work on tomorrow. I want to do some formatting stuff, but that I'm not gonna probably mess with it for the whole day. I might finish this tomorrow. I'm both excited too because I'm really enjoying this book, and also I don't want it to end, one of those kind of books, but we'll see. I'm gonna go to sleep now. Good night. Hello, friends. It is just past noon on the 26th, and I finished reading The Mirror Visitor. No, A Winter's Promise. The series is called The Mirror Visitor. Book 1 is A Winter's Promise. Anyway, I loved this. I had a fantastic time. Definitely enjoyed it more the second time than the first time. The first time I thought it was good. This time I definitely loved it. I don't think it's like perfect, not 10, but I very much enjoyed my time reading this, and I'm so excited to continue on with the series. So hopefully I get the chance to do that pretty soon, because I don't want to have to reread this again because too much time went past before I finally picked up the sequel. Anyway, with that done, I get to pick another prompt. It's so exciting whenever I get to pull a new card. I just never know what's gonna come up, and I think that's so fun. So let's just get to that. So here we have the wheel. We're gonna give it a spin, and we'll see what comes up. God, there's so many slices still, even having pulled 4 cards already. The Two of Adversaries, which, according to my chart, is a book that's intimidating because of age or language, which kind of just means a classic. I'm gonna go see what I've got on my shelves. Okay, so I'm actually not gonna go with a classic because of all classics that I currently have on my shelf that I haven't read, most of them are plays, and then I have 2 poetry collections, and then I also have a collection of like essays, and none of that's really like jumping out to me. So we're going with something else that is intimidating because of the language, and that is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe by Douglas Adams. This is the sequel to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I read a few months ago and loved, but it's so dense, and the like sci-fi kind of jargon and everything is very much just thrown at you. Kind of like how in Winter's Promise all the fantasy elements are just thrown at you and you're just in the deep end and you gotta figure it out for yourself. That's what Hitchhiker's Guide is like, but times 10 and like sci-fi instead of fantasy. Although, honestly, there's not that big a difference as people say between the two. Anyway, this has definitely been intimidating because of the language and why I have not picked it up yet, but we're gonna give it a go. It's not super long, it's just over 200 pages, but I don't think I'm gonna be speeding through this because of how dense it is, but I'm still excited to read it. Remember when I said that it was gonna take me a while to finish The Restaurant at the End of the Universe? I lied. It's done. It is about 9 a.m. on the 27th, so it's literally just been a day. I spent way too long last night reading this because I wanted to go to bed, but my boyfriend didn't, but he wasn't staying up so late that I wanted to get ready and go to bed because by the time I was in bed, then he would have to come in and get changed and all that. And I'm like, I'm just gonna stay up until he wants to come to bed. So I read like 80% of this book last night, and then the rest this morning while I was waiting for him to finish up in the shower and let me use the bathroom. It was fine, I guess. I feel like I only liked the first one as much as I did because I already knew the story from the movie. This one I didn't really care, and I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series. I might, but probably not. I'm thinking of giving my box set to my one friend Katie because they love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They have like a big bind up where it's all 5 novels in one volume. They just have loved it since they were a kid, and I think they would really like having this edition too. And if not, they can do whatever they wanted with it. But I think they would think it a very thoughtful gift. I just don't think that these books are for me, even though I did really love the movie. Maybe if I had watched it as a kid, like my friend did, I would think differently, but I didn't. It's just not my thing, I don't think. It's just very dense and a little bit too out there. Anyway, I guess we're spinning the wheel again. I have a feeling this is going to be the last book that I read because let's see, 27, 28, 29, 30 is 4 days. Depending on what I pick, I don't know. It has a very real chance of being the last book that I read in the month. So we're going to go into it with that mindset and we're going to spin the wheel to see what prompt we have to fill. You know the drill by now. We are going to, if I can click the button, we're going to spin the wheel and see what we get. Druid. Didn't we already have the druid? Which means I have to do the other. Ooh. 99% sure we did. Yeah. For A Winter's Promise, I used the druid prompt of translated book, which means now I have to use the other prompt, which is politics as a main theme. Yeah, this is definitely going to be the last one that I read because those books tend to be very big and dense. I don't know why I'm singing my words now. I'm gonna find something and come back. Okay, it actually took me a lot shorter of a time to find this book than I thought. Recently, I went through my shelves and I took out all of my unread books and put them on one shelf together, and that has been fantastic for me. Just seeing all of my unread books like together and not hidden among these other books makes me much more like aware of them, and it's making me want to pick them up more. And I have Enchanté by Guy de Trellis, probably pronounced that really bad. I don't speak French. This has since been renamed, so now it's called All That Glitters, and Enchanté is the name of I believe it's just a duology. I don't think it's a trilogy. But I picked this up at the dollar store a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. Not super long ago. This is a historical fantasy taking place on the eve of the French Revolution, so you know politics is gonna be in it. But basically, our main character has magic. She can like transform things, and she's very poor, taking care of her younger sister. Her brother has absconded with all of their money, and so she decides to transform herself into a like lady, someone from high society, or at least looking like one, and enter the courts of Marie Antoinette and Louis the 16th, I think, and like try her luck there. And it sounds very interesting. I am pretty hit or miss with historical fantasy, but something about this book makes me really intrigued. I really love this cover. For some reason, I really like covers that are faces where like the eyes are obscured. It's a really niche thing, but I think it's really fun. But let's see how long this book is. Ooh, the end papers are a map of Paris. That's really pretty. Sorry. 446 pages, which isn't a lot, but this is a very tall book. It's like taller than my head. And the font is pretty small. So I don't think I'm gonna get anything read after this, which is fine by me. I'm okay with this being my last read, assuming I enjoy it as much as I think I will. Yeah. Ooh, I did not expect to pick this up this month, but I'm really excited for this actually, so I will see you in my updates. Hello, friends. Today is the 30th, and I've finished reading Enchanté by Guy de Trellis, and it was fine. It wasn't like a bad book. It wasn't poorly written or anything like that. Didn't have any like problematic, icky elements to it. But it was just a book that exists. It was okay. I didn't like feel myself really getting into it. But like I finished it, so there's that. I just didn't feel connected to any of the characters. Everything felt very surface level, like there were several plots going on and they connected, but they didn't feel like they should have connected the ways that they did, if that makes sense. It was just a whole lot of what seemed to be really cool things, but in actuality, the execution wasn't great. It just didn't feel fully fleshed out. And I feel like it's kind of ironic for this book because this book deals a lot with like magic glamours and things being rotten, but on the surface it looks beautiful. So I think that's really funny that it turned out that way for me. I mean, I wish I had loved it, but you know, can't love every book. I don't think I'm going to be reading the sequel, and I don't think I'll be keeping this on my shelf, which is a shame because this is just a gorgeous cover. But I really just didn't find myself caring at all about any of it. It was like very conflicting at times because it's got the plot line of the French Revolution. Like we see the storming of the Bastille in here, and at the very end we get like a snippet of America has just declared independence and like the influence that that's all had on everything. But there's also like this theme of nobility staying, and like the main character does, like, she wants the people to be treated fairly, but she doesn't want nobility to fall because then for some reason if nobility isn't a thing anymore, then magic won't be a thing anymore, something like that. I don't know, it was this whole thing. There was a really interesting conversation about um, mixed race people in here because the love interest is half French, half Indian, and I do believe the author herself is also mixed race, and so I see where that came in. And I did really like the conversation that was happening surrounding his character. I thought that was very well done, but everything else was pretty bland. So, yeah, this was a fine book, but it wasn't anything spectacular or anything that I feel the need to keep or continue on with. So, like I said, it is the 30th, and therefore we have one more day left in this readathon because it's running till the end of the month. But I don't think I'm gonna spin and pick another book because, with my luck, I would get like The Four of Giants, which is a book over 600 pages, and I don't want to have to rush to try and finish that in a day and a half. It's fine. I'm content with what I've got. So I'm actually going to tally up all of my points and I'll be back to tell you what I've scored. Alright, I'm back and I've got my little notes here. So we'll just do a little bit of a recap. So the first card that I pulled was the developer, and for that I chose My Dark Vanessa, and I loved it. It was 461 pages. Then I pulled the Bard, which was the Shadow of the Wind, was my pick for that, and I DNF'd it at 104 pages. So I don't get the points for finishing that book because I didn't finish it, so that's 5 points that I don't get because I didn't complete the prompt. But the 104 pages do count towards my page points because for every 100 pages you read, you get another point. Then I pulled the Four of Undead and picked the Italian Lakes. That was 199 pages. Druid, I picked A Winter's Promise and got 491 pages out of that, so that's a fair few points. Then I pulled the Two of Adversaries and I read The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, which was 223 pages. And then finally I pulled the Druid again, and that was when I picked Enchanté, and I got 434 pages out of that. So the total number of pages is just over 1900, so that's 19 points from that. Plus, out of the 6 cards I pulled, I finished 5 of those books, so 5 of the prompts, and they're worth 5 points each, which is another 25. And that means I have scored a total of 44 points, which is way more than I expected. I was like a little slow to start, but then I feel like in the middle there I was zooming through books. But I think that's a respectable number. I don't know how much Laura has read because we still have another day in the readathon and she's probably going to actually use it. But whether or not she gets more points than me, I'm happy with that. And I think this was a very fun readathon, a success for my first members readathon. Again, if you think this is something that you would enjoy, check out my memberships with the Ko-fi link down below. There's a bunch of different perks. This is just one of them. And yeah, just check it out and see if maybe you're interested. But for now, this is where I leave you. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.